Just like that, we're back. Another season of Counter-Strike set to begin in just a few days, which means another season of Fantasyland. I'm Scrawny with the skinny, and well, we've got changes. Yeah, that's right. HLTV's making moves, folks. I want to quickly go over the changes between last season and this season. Then I'm going to set my goals officially in stone in the very first video of the season for what I want to achieve in fantasy over the next 6 months. And then we'll get in, of course, to the first event of the year, which is going to be, or rather, this second season, Blast Fall groups. So, HLTV has made updates, significant updates, to the roles and the boosters and to the point distribution. These are the only things I really kind of want to touch on, because I think now roles and boosters are going to be we're going to need to fine-tune our strategy to it. I feel like no longer are you forced into taking the same roles every single time. I think certain players are going to be specialist picks, and honestly, that difference in role activation could end up swaying us to draft certain players over others. So make sure you guys take some time, look through those new roles again, look through the new activation rates. There's a great article on HLTV where they go over all of these changes, as you can see on screen right now. Same with the boosters. They've taken out some of the junk. They've fine-tune the changes, but the biggest one, the thing that I think is going to affect our strategy throughout fantasy all season long, is this new season's point distribution. So no longer is there a top 3 finish. No longer is there a top 15 or a top 25 finish. It goes 1, 5, 10, and then 10 percentiles each, right? 20, 30, 40, 50. And that means that now the middle of the pack from, say, 30 onwards are going to be earning more points than they would have in the past. If before top 40 was getting you 6, now it's getting you 8. But top 30, which is 5 more inclusive than this previous top 25%, is dropping 10. There's 4 more points. You carry the 2, you add the 3, all of a sudden digits, high frequency shit. There's points to be won. That's what I'm trying to say here. And I'm curious to see as the season goes on how this is going to change our strategy. But those are the big changes to fantasy. Other than that, there's some new members on the Celebrity League. We've got Nart, Bubsky, we've got Taz and Vince, Oni Pixels out, LMBT's out. And I just want to say, this isn't the only place you guys are going to see me when it comes to fantasy content this season. Because of all the momentum that we've, grown here on my YouTube channel, HLTV approached me in between seasons, and I am the official host of HLTV Fantasy Focus. Now, that's another fantasy show that comes out with every fantasy event, just like Fantasyland, except I don't own it. Okay, I'm the face of it. I'll be a little host. We're going to be talking drama, trash talk, going over the celebrity leaderboard, going over the regular leaderboards, looking through the best performing teams, making fun of people who draft total flops, and just kind of stirring the pot, right? Picture it as like 50% entertainment with a little bit of advice sprinkled in. But this show, Fantasyland, I'm going to be basically keeping the same formula. This is where I'll be telling you my teams and my reasoning and my thoughts and predictions ahead of events before they go live. I didn't sell any of that to HLTV. I wanted to keep Fantasyland unique. I wanted to keep this my outlet for my input for you guys. So thank you. Thank you for making me propped up within the fantasy space, all of your views and comments and whatever not. Now we're getting paid, baby. Which helps, right? We got a new laptop to travel with. I've got my recording set up. All of these things have now been paid for because of Fantasyland and because of the size of the videos that I feel like we put together. So, a thank you. But without further ado, let's just get into it, okay? We got Blast Fall groups. I'll be going to Copenhagen in just a couple of days to be a part of this, as per usual. And this format, man, same as always, right? Blast has not been making changes to their format. Blast has not been making changes to their partner teams. So we know what to expect. It's 3 groups where the top team of each group qualifies directly to the Blast Fall Finals, which is a big event. We're talking Copenhagen Royal Arena. And then the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th teams will be mixed up within all of the groups in this here single elimination bracket, playing for a 2nd spot each at the fall finals, and bottom 2 teams go to the showdown, of course, where they're going to lose to a bunch of onliners. That's how it goes. So let's just get through the groups real quick. Again, as per usual, Fantasyland, we go through the format. I tell you which teams are going to perform well in my mind, and my God, all of these teams basically new at this point, right? The majority of the teams we're going to see are fresh rosters. and huge roster changes at that. So there's a lot of uncertainty kicking this off as we're also coming off of a spring break or summer break, which means we've got players who may or may not be rusty, who's going to be putting in that time, which teams have been boot camping, etc. There's a lot in the air right now. And on top of that, once we get into the players, dude, this is a crazy fantasy event with some really wild price tags. But first, let's do predictions. So in Group A, we've got Vitality, EG, Ninjas in Pajamas, and Complexity. I think it goes without saying that Vitality are the clear favorites to take this group. First place, no questions asked. The only team I anticipate giving them any sorts of trouble would be the Ninjas in Pajamas. Evil Geniuses went ahead and promoted EG Black, which I'm a huge fan of, but they also kept Automatic, which means Rush is gone from that team. It's not a lot of experience, but there is a lot of potential here. If we're looking at North American teams and rosters, this is a core that I'm actually hyped gets the chance to play like this. I would rather EG Black get this opportunity than that Frankenstein EU Evil Geniuses project that was just a total farce and, in my mind, had no hope. Ninjas versus Complexity could be a tight game, all right? I'm favoring Ninjas, and I'm also favoring Ninjas to run the lower bracket if they have to. But I love the fact that Elige is going to be on a new project. I really hope that kind of kicks him into gear and we get to see more consistency and maybe even higher peaks out of Elige. For the first time in like 8 years, 9 years, Elige is on a new team. So he's got a lot to prove, right? He's considered one of the best American Counter-Strike players of all time. Prove it. You've got a new project. You're no longer comfortable in your liquid, shell. I want to see Complexity do great things this season because they've been trying to build off of performances for the last 6 months, and now Elige over Fang should give them consistency. Is it enough to upset Ninjas? Maybe. But I'm still going to give it to the Ninjas in Pajamas. I say Vitality first, Ninjas second, Complexity third, and EG fourth. Group B, Heroic. Obviously, coming off of an event win, having just closed out a victory over Vitality in Washington, being one of the very few teams and the only team in Group B to have not made significant changes on their roster, I think Heroic have a very clear path to finishing number one in this group. We're also talking about a spot at the Copenhagen Fall Finals. Of all the teams competing in the groups, Heroic want that more than anybody else, hands down. If there's a second contender, it would be Astralis, but that's a team with 2 new players, and they've taken Glaive out of the equation. So there's a huge question mark on Astralis, a huge question mark on Na'Vi as well in this group. One of the craziest changes of the entire offseason. We've got Ime, we've got JL, and we've got Alexi B at the helm of Simple and Bit. And Bit can barely speak English, no offense. So there's a massive question around the communication of Na'Vi. There's not a question around the individual talents of Na'Vi. Their firepower is out of this world. That part's unquestionable, but I don't know, man. They make me nervous because that's a huge change to go through, and we saw what happens with communication issues with the Vitality French Danish kind of melange. So I'm saying Heroic first in this group over Big. I'm going to say Na'Vi take down Astralis. I believe in Device. He's had some really good group stage games, and essentially this is just a groups event. But I just think Ime is the real deal, and I think Simple's got something to prove, much like Elige. To me, it's 50-50 between Na'Vi and Astralis. It's 2 new teams. It's hard to tell. But let's say Heroic takes it number 1. Let's say Na'Vi goes second, but I would put Astralis second just as likely. And then Big will be last. I'm sorry, but the Montu inclusion and basically half a team of Academy players doesn't have me too hyped for Big. I love me some Crimbo. I love me some Tabson, but I think unfortunately they got a pretty stacked group against them. If not for, team play and communication issues, I wouldn't even give them any chance, but we'll see what happens. So Heroic 1, Na'Vi Astralis interchangeably 2 and 3, and then Big 4th on that group. Group C, man, European Liquid. Doesn't that just suck to say? European Team Liquid. It just stings. And if you had gone for some crazy superstar signing just like Yakinder again, then maybe I'd be sat here a little more excited. If it was still at least 3 North Americans with another European talent, we could have a conversation. But I know nothing about Rainwaker, and Patsy fell off the face of the earth when it came to the first half of 2023. Now, can Yakinder, who's going to be in-game leading this roster, somehow shape Patsy into a better performing player? Maybe. But until we see this Team Liquid, man, I've got no idea what to expect. G2 and FaZe, no roster changes. So immediately these two teams get a big buff in this group, specifically from me. And unfortunately, no offense to me or to them, but I think OG is just a downgrade from last season. I'm not inspired to see this OG team whatsoever. At all. So let's say FaZe beats OG, that's easy. I'm going to say G2 take Liquid just because of the uncertainty of this whole Liquid situation. And I mean, come on, we're talking about Nico and Monacy off of the player break. I know these guys are hungry, and they want to kick off this season well. So FaZe G2 in the upper final of this, man, that's a tough game to call. I'm going to go ahead and give it to FaZe. I just like Rops's form at the moment, and I think that G2's inconsistencies still just make me nervous. So much like the Navi Astralis conversation, but for different reasons. I mean, G2 FaZe, come on. That's going to be an amazing matchup. I'm not going to try to call a winner there. Screw it. It's just going to be a great game to decide who goes straight to the fall finals out of this Group C game. And then Liquid beat OG. OG is 4th, Liquid presumably 3rd, and the two teams that didn't make changes will top this group. Oof. Now, there's a single elim bracket where the teams all get mixed up. Take a second to look this through just so that you can see which players and which teams end up facing one another. There will be complexity and evil geniuses scattered in here, so it's not just Vitality and the Ninjas in Pajamas who might get a great chance at farming those two. Just saying, look it over if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty. But let's draft, shall we? So, you know we pick winners, right? And because of this redistribution of the fantasy points, I'm looking to play it safe, all right? Last season, I got burned by kicking it off with a Team Liquid and Navi 2-2-1 strategy. So I'm not trying to pick teams. I'm not trying to be some oracle at the moment. I'm just going to go for what I think are the safest bets right here, right now, because I just want to observe. I'm using this first event as a chance to finish in the top 30, and I just want to observe. I want to get my groove back, all right? It's been a month without my fantasy mojo. So obviously we go to Heroic. I think Heroic are the safest bet. The safest assumption of all of the teams here are going to be that Heroic will be fine in this group specifically. Again, their 3 opponents are all new teams. Does Navi have individual talent capable of besting Heroic on a good day? Yes, certainly. I think Vitality will have a very good shot versus Ninjas in topping theirs as well. So obviously Heroic and Vitality, straight out of the gate, 2 favorites to clean this. And this format, it gives 2 rounds of padding points for the team that qualifies first from each group. 3 teams are going to get 2 rounds of padding points, which is massive. I'm trying to tap into that. Even if I don't pick the superstar of these teams, I want those damn padding points. And so when I look at Heroic, I want 2 players. The price tag on Stown and Jabby is just going to outprice me. We're going with Shush, who's been excellent at this price for some time now and had a phenomenal Blast groups last season as well. Okay, Shush, he's just bang for your buck right now on the Heroic team. And that leaves us between Cadian and Tessas. Now, I would love to get into the Cadian opping thing. I think Cadian versus Tessas, I'd prefer to take Cadian every time. But we're trying to play silvers here. And for that reason, I'm going Tessas. All right, I'm just taking the bottom of the barrel of Heroic because the beauty of Heroic is the bottom of the barrel is actually the middle of the barrel. And it's not even a barrel at all. It's just Heroic, that solidified entity where any individual on any given day could be the top performer, could earn you the most amount of points. And if I'm correct in assuming that Heroic go through first, that means they play 2 best of 3s. If these players just have decent maps in those best of 3s, we're talking massive points from the double Heroic pick. It's the safest bet you can make in my opinion. Then we go to Vitality. I want 2 Vitality players. Zywoo is an absolute god. Last time I picked him, ESL Pro League groups, farmed. Padding points, farmed. could do the exact same thing here. I believe it was Launders who at the start of last season's fantasy used ZywOo to get into that early lead. But $252,000 is crazy. Way too crazy for my liking. So I'm going to skip him this time. Spinks 225. Sorry, bro. You've outpriced yourself again. The addition of Flamesy on Vitality is something I genuinely get behind. I used to pick Flamesy from time to time when he was on OG because this kid's got talent. The fact now he's surrounded by these stars of ZywOo and Spinks and that Magic's individual level has been looking better and better as time's gone on, I'm down with this. So Flamesy's an inclusion for me. That's the biggest risk I'm willing to run on the first event of the season. The new kid of Vitality at 211. And then Magisk at 210. Yes, I could go for Apex. I could free up some money and I could draft something elsewhere. But I'm thinking Flamesy and Magisk should both finish this with a decent amount of points. I want them goddamn padding points. And I don't think Apex is going to come through for me here, which leaves us with 167,000. Now you go through the usual suspects. Kerrigan. Too much red. Hooksy. Nope, we don't play that gamble too often. Hampus is 153,000 because he's been as inactive as he has been for so long. And that is going to tempt a lot of people. He is the number one picked player for this draft at the moment. And I am afraid of that landmine. Straight up. I'm tempted by it. At 153, that is crazy. Anybody who's got ZywOo's probably got Hampus. That's just the reality of this. And Hampus is definitely going to perform better than a $153,000 price tag. But he's also been so inactive for quite some time. It makes me nervous, and we have extra money, so I'm going to scroll past him. JT. No, sir. Alexi B. That's the key. All right. Even if I expect Navi to have serious communication issues, which is why I'm not tapping into Simple at 214. It's why I'm not tapping into Bit at 189. To me, Navi is the biggest question mark of this entire event. Alexi B, however, much like Hampus, is worth more than 167. He'll be in the 180s, 190s in a month and a half, guaranteed. And with the players that he has on his roster, I am much more inclined to believe in Alexi B than I am Hampus. Because, I mean, Rez, Brolin, Headtrick, Config, they can all have bad days. But when you've got Simple, Ime, and JL, and then Bit as your fourth in that conversation, I just assume that Alexi B will be able to keep his head above water and score me enough points to justify the rest of the team. So here we go, boys. Locking it in. We got the Goblins. We start every season with the Goblins because that's me. That's my spirit animal. Multi-fragger leader, entry fragger support, and noob on Alexi B. No offense, brother. Make sure you guys go back over the roles. Like I said, they changed this season, so you definitely need to make sure you're up to speed with some changes. The activation rate on small bonuses definitely looks shorter and smaller than usual. Again, I think roles are going to play a very important role in the minutia, the tiny little details, that 15 points of difference that's going to put you inside the 1% or inside the top 2%. This is the Goblins. This is the roster I am very confident locking in. But of course, baby, I got you. I got you with them options. So here's some others, okay? If you don't like Goblins, and if you think that the Hampus gamble is worth it, then I say go ahead, take Hampus. Take Hampus instead of Alexi B. Free yourself of, I think, $14,000. Take that $14,000 and put it on Flames. Replace him with Spinks, the proven Israeli talent. You still have Magisk, Shush, and Tessus. This is 3/5 of the exact same draft. But if you think that the Hampus gamble's worth it, I say put that extra money on Spinks because the odds are he will outperform Flamesy, who's coming in and playing in a new team, and it might be a little weird. It might be a little sketchy. I still think Flamesy's a safer bet. Or not a safer bet, but is a fine bet because of the competition he's playing against. My only criticisms of Flamesy come when he plays on biggest stages. I think he's a playoff choker. I think big stages make him nervous. At least it did in OG. So, Spinks and Hampus instead of Alexi and Flamesy if you want. Another alternative, the heroic emphasis, okay? This is what I'd do if I had kept Cadian instead of Tesses, because I prefer Shush over Tesses at the same price. I'll take Cadian because of the op and because the love of aggression that he's going to be throwing out at a group stage game like this. Think about all the aggression Cadian has been pent up inside of him throughout this player break, and it's all going to get unleashed on the noobs in his group as they're just trying to play their first officials. We still keep Flamesy in this roster, but because of the money we lose on Cadian, which is $6,000 difference, we can no longer get Magisk, so we go for Rain instead. FaZe haven't made changes. I don't expect Rain to go above and beyond. If this was a stage game, a playoff event, well then maybe Rain would be in consideration, especially at this price tag, but Rain's not going to sink your ship. He's going to do great. He had a great vacation, went down into the island somewhere, man. He's coming back motivated. I can feel it. And I still emphasize taking Alexi instead of Hampus. That's the heroic emphasis. And then last but not least, the biggest baller that there is, $252,000 for the chosen one, for Lilu, for the legend of Lens. If you want ZywOo, you've got to take Apex. It's the only way you're going to afford it is by going with the double bronze. Now, I listened to Lucy's new video called How to Win HLTV Fantasy. Good advice. So make sure you go at Lucy Casts on YouTube. Go watch Lucy's content as well. She's going to be pumping it out this season. If you love fantasy and you want some insight, you should honestly listen to her more than you listen to me. But I'm cooler, so hang around. Know what I'm saying? ZywOo, Apex, Shush, Tesses, we're still keeping those two bottom-of-the-barrel heroic players, and then Hampus comes through, which, again, is the risk, but you get ZywOo. ZywOo will carry Hampus. That's fine. This draft tempts me. I'm not going to lie. There's a good chance if I switch, it will be to this lineup. It'll be just going in on ZywOo because ZywOo is undeniably the best player of 2023 so far, and for that reason, he should be a surefire choice for this group specifically. I'm just a little hesitant because I think that because the competition's so low in their Group A, that the other guys who are playing in front of him, most notably Flamesy, I think is going to start farming up a lot of the rating. And so maybe 252 is not worth it in the end. I don't know. But if you want the woo, keep that double heroic, double vitality, double heroic, play safe odds at the start of this season. There's too much uncertainty around Na'Vi. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Again, thank you guys. God, it felt nice to make this video. It's a long one. And as the season goes on, I'll be sure to be making every Fantasyland, every event, over and over, over and over, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever.